Hi everyone, thank you for coming and checking out my channel today. My name is Tanny and I'm an independent author and somebody who really just loves great stories. So on this channel I talk about writing, books I've enjoyed, and lessons I've learned on my publishing journey. It's almost Halloween and we are halfway through October already. I've been making lists of indie book recommendations and just trying to showcase some of the indie books that I've read and loved. And I wanted to do this a little earlier in the month, but I just didn't get to it. So today I'm going to be sharing some of my favorite like spooky Halloween kind of indie books, or not all of them are necessarily horror, but they might have like monsters or just kind of a nice fall kind of spooky vibe to them. So anyways, that's what I'm going to be sharing with you today. If you guys think any of these books sound interesting, I would really encourage you to go and check them out. You can add them to your Goodreads TBR, you can purchase them if you feel like it, and then if you do decide to read one of these, please be sure to leave a review. Sometimes as indie authors it can be really extra hard to get book reviews, but they are so important and they really help those books find their target audience and reach the right readers. So if you do read one of the books on this list, please be sure to leave a review for it. Anyways, let's dive right in. The first book I want to recommend to you guys is Dust on the Altar by Michelle Winkler. This is a book that I have talked about before on this channel. It's an adult fantasy book. It's fairly short and quick, but it definitely has those spooky Halloween kind of vibes that I really love for this time of year. The book is about a witch named Jade. Jade lives in this more technologically advanced place called Sun City, but she really is from a small town that is known as Sugar Hill, and she's part of a coven of witches in this town. Witches have been kind of ostracized in the society where she lives, so there are these larger cities where, ordinary people live and there's lots of technology and things like that. But then there are smaller townships where the witches live. Jade has been kind of trying to separate herself from her town, and so she's moved into Sun City. But when a relative dies, she ends up having to go back to the town of Sugar Hill to figure out what happened and to take her place as the leader of her coven. The magic system is really interesting in this story, and I really loved all of the characters. There is kind of a romantic subplot that I really enjoyed as well. And again, I just think this is the perfect book to read for Halloween. It's very spooky, it's very atmospheric, and it just has a lot of those, kind of creepy Halloween vibes, but it's still a lot of fun. I do believe that the author is going to be putting the book on sale either right now or very soon. I can't remember exactly when. It's been out for about a year now, so I think the author's having a sale to celebrate its release a year ago. And I also think that she's going to be doing a live stream to celebrate that anniversary, and we'll be talking a little bit about book 2, which she's currently working on. So I will link that if I have that information down in the description if I can find it. And I would just really encourage you to check that out. The next book I want to talk about is called The Raventree Society, and it's actually a series of books. It's like a episodic kind of serial story. So the way it works is that there are like all these different short stories that are connected together and they make for one big overarching story, but each individual short story is kind of its own self-contained little thing. It's divided up into 3 different seasons, and in each season there are 5 different episodes, so 5 different separate stories. And I really like that setup for this story in particular because the main character is somebody who is like a TV personality on one of those like haunted paranormal ghost investigator kind of TV shows. So he is actually making, seasons and episodes of this TV show as the story goes along. His name is Kyle, and initially when we first meet him, he's like not really sure about ghosts. He is like a paranormal investigator, right? And he's doing this TV show, but he honestly doesn't believe it himself and is just kind of thinks that it's all a joke and, is just putting on a show, doing his job, and doesn't really think that much about it. His brother ends up going missing and he's not sure what happened to him, and so he's kind of investigating that disappearance, and these really strange paranormal kind of things start to happen to him, and he starts to be more and more convinced about, oh no, there really are ghosts, and, some of them are trying to kill me. It's a really entertaining story, but there's also some really powerful themes that are explored in that. We're exploring grief and really complicated family relationships, and I really felt like the author handled those topics really well. It was really interesting to see Kyle, the main character, to watch his development throughout the course of the series and to see how he grapples with all of these different things. He's a very flawed main character, And there were a lot of times where I honestly just didn't like him or very strongly disagreed with the things he was doing. But he was very nuanced as well. And so even if I didn't agree with what he was doing, I could kind of understand where he was coming from and why he would act that way. It is a little on the creepier side. I was reading some of the reviews before I made this video, and I think a lot of people were legitimately like creeped out and scared by it. I tend to not be super creeped out or scared by the things that I'm reading. So for me, it wasn't that scary, but it might be for other people. It's probably one of the scarier stories that I have on this list. So if you are looking for something that's a little darker and a little more creepy for Halloween, then definitely check this one out. Next, I want to talk about The Trick-or-Treater and Other Stories by Brianna Morgan. I have read several of Brianna Morgan's books now, and I really enjoy her writing style and the way that she creates characters. Her stories are always very well paced, and the writing style is simplistic, but like in a good way that just makes it a very easy reading experience and just makes the stories, you know, quick and easy to get through, but they still have a lot of impact, I feel like, and so I really enjoy that about her writing. This is actually a collection of short stories that she put together. She's kind of shifted more into writing horror stories in the last couple of years, I think. So this was, you know, just a bunch of scary horror stories. And I actually listened to it on audiobook, and that was really well done, and I enjoyed the narration of that. Like any short story collection, there are some stories that are maybe a little stronger than others, or that I liked a little more. But overall, I felt it was a really interesting collection. It's been a while since I read it, and I don't remember all of the stories in very specific detail, but I do remember this one story, and I think it was set at Christmas time, and it's centered around a Christmas song. I want to say it's Silent Night is the Christmas song that it's kind of focused around, but I can't remember for sure. But in the audiobook, the narrator actually sings that Christmas song, and it's like, you know, it's a spooky story, and I love, like, that's one of my favorite tropes in horror movies or video games or anything, is when you have this very, like, innocent, wholesome song, but it's being portrayed in a very creepy way, and it just kind of just really adds to the atmosphere of the whole thing. So I really enjoyed that one in particular. I tend to really enjoy horror short stories, and even more so than like horror novels, I think. And so if you're like me and you like horror short stories, definitely give that collection a chance. I think you might enjoy it. The next book I have on this list is Awake While I Die by K.E. Woodruff. And this one is on here not so much because it's spooky or scary, but it is a vampire story. So I felt like that was appropriate for Halloween. One of the things that I really loved about this is it's a very unique take on vampires. It's a story that is very much almost more like a YA contemporary story, and the vampires are just kind of this, almost this secondary element. And really the story is about this character, Jason. He is suicidal. And so obviously content warnings for, you know, suicidal ideation and things like that. He has a failed suicide attempt, and when he emerges from the woods where he's gone to do this, he finds out that he's turned into a vampire. And so not only has he now failed his suicide attempt, but he is going to live forever. And we kind of see him have to come to terms with that and figure out how he's going to, you know, navigate this new life and this new condition that he has. It's a very character-driven story, and while I did want a little more from the vampire elements and kind of exploring, you know, what the vampires are like in this world and what their society and culture is like and things like that, this is a very character-focused story, and I do respect the author's decision to focus more on Jason and on his, you know, just his internal struggle with all of this. If you enjoy YA contemporary novels that do explore some of those kind of heavier themes sometimes, and you're looking for, you know, kind of a paranormal spin on it a little bit, I think this is one that you might enjoy. Next, I have The Wonderland Chronicles by J.M. Sullivan. This is one that I have talked about a little bit on my channel as well. I think there's a third book out now that I haven't read yet, but I did read the first two. This is an Alice in Wonderland retelling, but it is set in like a post-apocalyptic zombie world. I really loved the way that all the different characters were reimagined in this story, especially like the Cheshire Cat and the Mad Hatter character. I thought they were imagined in a really creative way that really made them more of an integral part of the story and the world. And so it doesn't feel like just a straight up retelling that's kind of been transplanted into this post-apocalyptic world. It does feel like its own story, but there are definitely some good connections to the original. And I just really enjoyed it and felt like it was really well done. And there's zombies, so obviously, that's a great fit for Halloween. Next on my list, I have Black Fall by DJ Bodden. And I just went to look up the book for this so I could kind of refresh my memory about it to talk about it. And it has new book covers. All the entire series has new book covers. And they're like my favorite thing ever. I love book covers that are like black, white, and red. I don't know why. There's just something about that color scheme and like the silhouettes and everything. It's like one of my favorite things ever. So they have new covers and they're perfect. And this series is really good. I have not read the third book yet, but these new covers are really making me want to dive back in. This is a story about a boy named Jonas. It's a paranormal kind of urban fantasy novel. There's a lot of like vampires and werewolves and zombies. I think the receptionist character in the novel is a zombie, if I am remembering right, and she was fantastic. I really enjoyed that. I honestly don't remember a ton about the plot. What I do remember is that I really enjoyed the story and I really enjoyed some of the characters, and I just thought it was overall a very entertaining read. I do remember it being very funny and very clever and just overall very entertaining. So if that sounds like a fun time to you, pick it up and check out the series. It was really fun. The last book I want to share with you guys is Bits and Pieces by Dawn Hosmer. This is one that I recently listened to on audiobook. I will be totally honest with you guys. If you're going to try the audiobook, listen to a sample of the narrator first. I think I would have enjoyed it a little more if I had been reading it. The narrator just was not a good fit for me. I don't think it ruined the story by any means, but I do wonder if I would have enjoyed it a little more just reading it. I put this book on my list because it's more of like a real life monster kind of story, right? So we're dealing with a person who is a killer. Our main character is a woman named Tessa, and she has this unique ability where if she touches somebody, she kind of picks up these pieces of them, whether that's a memory or a feeling or just something that happened to them, or even things that might happen to them in the future. And so this is, it's a unique ability, and some might call it a gift, but it's really torturous for her, and it really causes some, deep psychological issues and trauma for her, and it's really upsetting to her. It's impacted her relationships with other people and just the way that she feels about herself. When we first meet her, she is kind of, just very downtrodden and doesn't have a lot of hope in life and doesn't see things getting better for herself at all. Having all of these different pieces of other people that she's picked up also makes her feel like she's losing herself. In the town where she lives, there have been all of these local college students that have gone missing. And in the process of helping with the search for one of these missing women, she picks up a piece of a memory from a person that she assumes to be the killer. And because of that, she wants to find out what happened and who did it and how to bring them to justice so that they don't hurt anybody else, and so that she doesn't have to continue to live with this awful, piece of memory that she now has. I really appreciated the portrayal of mental health in this story. It is kind of like a paranormal psychological thriller kind of story, but there are some really good portrayals of mental illness and mental health. And her therapist also was like, honestly, one of the best depictions of a therapist that I've seen in fiction. Oftentimes we see therapists portrayed very negatively, and some of them are just like downright awful and harmful. And as a therapist myself, that always just bugs me a little bit. Like, I don't know, most of us are trying to do a good job and actually trying to help people, and I would like to see that represented in fiction a little more. So it made me really happy that Tessa's therapist was so supportive and so encouraging to her, and was such a, just really wanted her to be okay, and really made an effort to, first of all, be responsible and to actually help her, which, should be the bare minimum for a therapist, but we don't see that in fiction as often as I would like. So again, I just really appreciated it here. It does get very dark in places. You probably need all the content warnings for, violence, sexual assault, and just, there's a lot of gore and violence that goes on. So if you are sensitive to that kind of thing, definitely don't pick this one up. But if you are looking for a good psychological thriller with some really good character development and good depictions of mental illness and mental health, I think this is a good one to pick up. That's all I have for you guys today. Again, please check out any of these books if they sound interesting to you. I will have them all linked in the description below so that you can find them easily. And again, if you do pick up one of these books, please be sure to leave a review when you finish reading it. Those reviews are really important and really helpful. Let me know in the comments what is one of your favorite spooky reads for Halloween or just for the fall season. And if you like this video, please be sure to hit the thumbs up button. You can also subscribe and ring the bell if you want to see more videos like this in the future. I hope you guys have a fantastic week and a very happy Halloween, and I will see you next time. Bye. Bye. Whatever, dude. Get out of here.